Welcome to Emotional Support Siblings Podcast, where we trauma bond, laugh, cry, complain, talk shit to one another, and then by the end, we'll pick each other back up. I'm Luke, and this is my emotional support sister, Sara.
Hello, welcome back for week 2. No, we are not licensed therapists, but we do have opinions and enough life experience to keep things interesting. So, thank you for coming back for week 2 or joining us for the first time. Last week, we just kind of introduced ourselves, who we are and why we're doing what we're doing, and things that we're looking forward to. And hopefully that's why you're back.
Absolutely. Yeah, last week was just kind of a generalized outlook at our childhood, early adult years to kind of where we're at now, and exactly what my sister said. We just wanted to introduce ourselves and why we're doing this and why we think this is important. So we're glad for all of you who are going to listen to us and stay tuned each week.
Yeah, so we decided that week 2, we would break out into our rules and our roles in our family, kind of growing up, and how that's kind of shaped us to who we are and through those experiences. When we talk about rules and roles, what do you think about our family?
Ooh, I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, I think about our immediate family, of course, when it comes to the roles that we R-O. I'm gonna say it, and it's gonna sound the exact same.
I know.
But the roles R-O-L-E-S, in which we all played, and I think that yours may seem different than what I kind of view them as, and that's cool. I'm excited to talk about it. And then when it comes to the rules, dude, I wrote down a shit of unwritten, a bunch of unwritten rules. There are so many that I remember and still play in my head regularly today. You know, when I'm going out into the world, I just think of like mom's voice, like, no ropes, no closets, no. I'm like, oh my god, dude, I'm 32 years old. I can go into a closet.
That's funny. That's one of the ones that I wrote down too. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I remember playing hide and seek next door, and every single time we'd go down there, no freezers, no ropes, no closets.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh my god, dude, there's nowhere good to hide anymore in hide and seek.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of growing up, we all have like these unspoken like guidelines, right? So like this formatting of your family dynamic, of things that you just know what's acceptable and what's not. You don't ever like necessarily remember a time where it was essentially written out for us. But I think a lot of it for us growing up, those guidelines were stacked because we were coming from a family where there were a lot of dynamics with mental health. There were a lot of dynamics with addiction. And when you kind of loop that into those guidelines, I feel like we all kind of had to walk on eggshells a lot and
Absolutely.
try to navigate it the best that we could. So, and when I think about that role in particular, when I really sat down, I think that was kind of like our mom's way of controlling a world that you cannot control, right?
Yeah.
So she constantly, it was like a mantra, like anytime we went to a friend's house, anytime we played outside, we're out of her sight at all. You know, no ropes, no freezers, no guns. I mean, it was constant. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that too. Uh, what else do you remember?
When it comes to unwritten rules,
Yeah,
are
rules,
you?
guidelines. Yes,
Um,
we'll do rules and then we'll
yeah.
do roles.
Okay.
So
You say
we
it
don't
better
have to
than I do.
clarify. We're sticking with rules.
Okay. All right. Unwritten rules. Oh shoot.
Well, I'll tell you one that's like right off the top of my brain is that for me it just felt like whenever there's conflict in our family, it was never dealt with. Like the rule was you just basically shut it down and let enough time pass and move on. Like the
Yeah,
rule was things happen, we don't have to talk about it. And when I
yeah,
thought about that, what I actually brought it back to was last week when you were talking about how like you never had this feeling of anger, which I find very interesting because I wonder a little bit if those two things kind of weave together because I guess maybe you couldn't express it because there wasn't an outlet for that, like the argument and the hard stuff. I mean, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, yeah, that could make sense. I don't know. I think being a product of your environment is a very, very real thing. Not that you have to stay a product of your environment, but we learn what we learn, and it takes a tool on our brain and how we develop and think and over the course of our lives. So um, I would imagine that influenced it pretty directly to where, yeah, because that was one of the things I have on mine where I wrote down no accountability,
Mhm.
and just drop it, act like nothing happened in parentheses, um, and that is dependent on how long the enraged person was going to hold on to it, almost like a grudge hold. But yeah, it's almost like we don't talk about it. We don't try to work it out. We just move past it, and like I can see how things like that can be fine, to a degree. But I also think like there's some things that you need to talk about, especially when I was taught something within the last 3-4 years that if it if a resentment lasts longer than 10 seconds, you pray about it. If it lasts
Mm.
longer than 10 minutes, you call somebody about it, and if it lasts longer than 24 days, you address it directly, or 24 hours, you address said person or resentment directly.
I think that's
And
a good rule of thumb.
I think
Yeah.
so too, and it's been so helpful. And not that our parents had that in the back of their head, or any parent out there. I don't know. I hope that I continue to hold on to that, but something along those lines, could have been pretty fucking healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think the other thing that comes to mind, like branched off of that, um, is that I feel like our family, we were real isolated. Like our problems were our problems. We didn't trust anybody outside of us. And I think that we both still battle with that. I think that like you come across a lot of people that um, are like, oh, if it's an unhealthy relationship, it shouldn't matter that it's a sibling or a parent. Like you just want, you know what I mean? But I think that there's almost this rule that was our whole life that like these are your people and you stick by your people no matter how messed up they are or anything else. And I think that that makes it really hard into adulthood when you know something so unhealthy, like how to walk away from it and still tell yourself something different than what you knew for 30 years, you know?
Absolutely. And I know in my case, because I have trust issues on here as well, how we never trusted anybody outside of the family. And I think, like, in my experience, it hurt me in a different kind of way, because in times where I was truly at fault and should have been in trouble, whether it be with the law or at school or whatever, and mom or dad made it, no, well, the police shouldn't have pulled you over, you know.
Mm,
So like, I already didn't trust the police, but now I have my mom not trusting the police on me, on my side, when she shouldn't have been on my side. I was a fucking psycho.
yeah. What were you
Um,
doing? Yeah, for
and
sure.
and that hurt me in the long run. And yeah, I think that really, and that's something I really want to change, and that goes hand in hand with like the accountability and the just drop it and walk away kind of thing. But um, I don't know, the trust issues that I just remember every time that any of me or our brother got in trouble, it was always the other party's fault, even when it wasn't the other party's fault. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a hard way to learn accountability, especially in like your teenage years where you're starting to finally realize the decisions that you make are going to affect the outcome of your life. You know what I mean? Like if you decide you want to slack off and not study for a test or take school seriously, like those choices that you make can potentially affect your college. And if you don't start making habits out of certain things at that age, positive habits, they affect you later. And I think that goes to say with so many things, a lot of people start to experiment with drugs and alcohol. You were that way in teenage years, and habits get developed and formed. And a lot of times what people don't even acknowledge is that the lack of, development in your prefrontal cortex. So you're already taking an underdeveloped brain, right? And now you're introducing all of this other, shit into it. And now it doesn't know how to function without that shit. And yeah, no wonder people deal with these things deeply, not just mental health, but addiction.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I'm 32 years old and still have a very underdeveloped brain, if you if you ask me.
I agree.
Oh shit. I
Um,
do you remember parking in the driveway? This was an unwritten rule that I remember when all of us could drive and we were all still at home. Bro, that
yeah,
was a nightmare. But it was
yeah,
like you had to leave enough space for whoever was going to leave first.
yeah.
And if you parked too close, like it was like we were ready to throw hands every single time.
Who was it that was at our house? It was one of Josh's girlfriends at the time, had their car parked, and sitting around talking one day, and somebody was like, I backed into her car this morning. And then three other people said, I had a car last week, and I said it a month ago, and we were like, oh my, that car was a beast. It was like a little cobalt.
Oh
It
yeah.
took a beating. I know, I do remember parking was a nightmare. I was working second shift. I was an STNA at the time. And I know that parking was a nightmare because I'd come home and I wouldn't get home until 11:30. Pretty much everybody was at home. And I wouldn't have class the next day until later in the morning. And in the wintertime, I drove that. I had a Mustang convertible, but it was like a piece of crap. And the roof would leak. And I explicitly remember like the locks freezing so much on my Mustang that nobody could ever get into my car. I'm out there every morning freezing with a fucking lighter trying to get my door unlocked just so I can move it for somebody to leave in the morning. Oh, it was the worst.
Yeah. And then remember how mom with the last Coke, if so we
Mm-hmm.
would always get a 12 pack of Coke, and if it was the last Coke, we had to ask our mom's permission and ask her if she wanted it first. And then if she didn't and said it was okay, we could always drink the last Coke. That was
Yeah, but
that
two
one.
things with that. She started to keep her own Coke in her office
What?
underneath her desk. Yeah. I explicitly remember like not being Coke, but she would keep it in her office so nobody had access to it. And yeah, that was. Do you ever? Let me ask you this: do you ever remember growing up and anybody ever telling you like, drink a glass of water? Ever?
No.
No.
No. What's that?
Literally, I don't think I drank water until I was like 25. I'm not even joking. I really started to think about the sacred Coke code of our house, and I was like, man, it was Kool-Aid with those little fucking packets and a gallon of water and half a bag of sugar, or Coke. I never drank water.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, even like playing sports and stuff. Like we would drink. I mean, we would drink Gatorade, but I feel like I only drink Gatorade because other kids on the team were drinking Gatorade. If they had Coca Cola, I was drinking it, playing
Yeah.
basketball or baseball, whatever. Man, what I got I got a good question. Something that kind of came to my mind is out of all these unwritten rules that we've discussed, or if you have another one, what do you still catch yourself following today?
Hmm. Well, we still have a parking situation if that's what you're asking. Uh, Honestly, I think a lot of it for me is like this struggle with the family dynamics, you know. I think that I know that I have clarity that stepping away from some deep negative things is the appropriate thing to do. Um, but I battle. I feel like a lot of people don't take the time when you walk away from a relationship that knew you from the time that you first open your eyes, you know? Um, Walking away from something like that, it is so painful, you know, because you really just want this person to be better and get better, and you can hope on it and pray on it and fight for it, and then you just get to a point where you're like, it was when I started having kids that I was like, I just can't do it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that the family values and the family isolation, I think that hit me. And I do fall into that sometimes with the girls. I have to remind myself. I think the first few years, you know, I had my first daughter during COVID and we were so isolated. So like getting back out into the world, I really had to relearn how to share my kids' light with the world because we're not meant to covet that. Like my kids are fun and they're thoughtful and I want to share them with the world, but I do get that sometimes. It is hard because you want to keep them protected from everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. We obviously have our first baby on the way, and fearful of all like the new parent fears, I guess. I mean, you and I have talked about it a bunch and everything, but I do think when you've grown with it like a family dynamic that we have where it's like um blood is thicker than water, kind of.
Mm.
Um, it feels weird when you start to, you know, see life for what it really is and see a lot of these things. And um, I could imagine that that's something that you would feel the need to protect your children from. A little bit of backstory, if we didn't discuss it last week. I live in Savannah, Georgia. I did not grow up here. We're from the Akron, Ohio area. She is still there, and I get out a family events free pass for being 700 miles away or whatever it is. So um, it is a lot different when I know that for the time that I was still there, it was very very difficult for me to not be wrapped up in it. So I can't imagine still being there and making the moves and things that you have.
Yeah. Well, again, I think a lot of that is you have to remember like kids especially like they're going to grow up. They're going to they're going to be able to make their own decisions and that's just kind of what happened to us. And there will come a time that my kids grow up and they're going to have to make their own decisions. And I don't sit here and badmouth anybody in our family. Like they're going to have to grow up and learn it for themselves. Um, it's That's something that I'm not at the point yet. My kids aren't necessarily old enough to start having those conversations about why people, certain people aren't around. Um, so I do my best to navigate that a day at a time, I guess. Only I answer the questions that I need to answer. And, like you said, I think that is a little bit easier when you're further away. But, I mean, it's definitely a perk, but moving away wasn't necessarily from our family wasn't necessarily the reason. I mean, do you
Right.
think it was the reason you left?
No, I think uh, I mean, at the time, what made sense to me was they call it the geographical cure, where because I was so heavily involved with like the the drug and alcohol use and everything, that if I just got away from what I know, I could start fresh and learn something new. And come to find out, geographical cure isn't a thing. They say you take yourself with you wherever you go, and you will always find what you're looking for, and I sure as hell did. You can ask my wife. She stuck by my side, thank God, but yeah. But no, I don't think it was running from family necessarily or trying to get away from family. I think it was more so trying to get away from the stuff that I felt at the time caused a lot of issues with my family, which was the drug use, you know?
And I think when you kind of grow up in like uh, a family that is real tight knit that way, I think that you can really kind of see when people grow up that they need to have that separation. Like we have a lot of family members, our age that have moved away and gone to different places, even if it's a few hours or, completely different states. I think that a lot of times they've wanted to go that route because it allows you a sense of like freedom to find out who you are without these, family influences impacting your everyday decision and everything that you're doing,
Yeah,
because again, like our family is the type of family that you say one thing to one person and you're getting a phone call in about 25 minutes that somebody heard something from somebody else. I mean, it's wildfire.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think moving away from me, like in hindsight, was probably the best thing I could have ever done. But at the time, it was one of the worst things I could have ever done. Like I'm glad that it eventually, over the course of like the next 2 years after we moved down, like I was almost like really, really, truly forced into a position of like get your shit together or like your rock bottom is gonna sink even lower. And today I'm grateful for that, but at the time, like, that underdeveloped Luke brain was like, hell yeah, dude. My parents, they're not gonna know what I'm doing, and I don't have to tell anybody what I'm doing. They can't come check on me, and that was just that, young, just underdeveloped brain talking. But that is truly how I felt. So, you want to know an unwritten rule? Sorry, I think this one will make you laugh. An unwritten rule that I still that still haunts me. I don't wear striped shirts.
Mm. Yeah, we've talked about this a few times
Yeah,
about commentary growing up. Yeah, it took me until a couple years ago to start wearing yellow again.
yeah, yeah. Backstory: striped shirts make me look fat. So, and now anytime that I see one, like that's the first thing I think of. Like, my wife has tried to give me like striped shirts, and she's gotten me some, and it's almost like looking in the mirror after you've lost some weight and still seeing the old version
Body
of yourself.
dysmorphia.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. It's almost like that, but it's a saying. It's like I only look that way if I wear a striped shirt. So I don't know, dude. That one haunts me.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. It's hard when family members are your first bully.
True that. True that.
Mm. Well, all right. Let's talk about our roles. We're switching from
R.O.
rules to roles.
You say it so much better than me.
Yeah, you just said you want to know an unwritten role, and I was like, man, you sound real Georgia. Real Georgian? Is it Georgian?
You just sounded real Georgian. You said real?
Yeah,
Real?
because I was talking like you.
Yeah, you sound real Georgian down there, okay? Yes, we're switching to R.O. And I want you to go down the list of family members, not by first name, just by mother, brother, father. You can use my first name. But what would you consider R.O.L.E.S.?
For you, I definitely think that you took on the fragile baby role. I also think that you took on a little bit of like the family clown. Like everybody could rely on you for a good laugh when tensions were high, or just like kind of to take the awkwardness out of situations. Like you were always good for that, kind of like you know, bringing people together. And like you said, I think a lot of that just had to do with not necessarily having to take on responsibility. But I think, like you said, it hindered you. There wasn't this development of independence at an age when those things start to kind of develop. Um, and I wonder a little bit too if that didn't affect your relationship with our older brother. I wonder a little bit too with that dynamic, that if there was something there that he played at, you know, you being a little bit easier to persuade, and you also having the mentality of not wanting to be left out. So kind of just like going along for the ride for a lot of stuff, that you just didn't want to be not included in things. Um, yeah. And so I wonder a little bit with like the addiction thing, um, if that came into play. Do you feel like that with our brother and our dad?
Um, that's such a question. It's a tough question to be answered because if you get into mental health and counseling and therapy, and we go back, I've had many counselors and therapists that I've talked with about that I mean, I'm sure it plays a part, right? Like, I will never take that out of the question. I definitely think it plays a part that two of the male role models in my life, the biggest, obviously, is my older brother and my father, um, that they would do those things, right? So I definitely think seeing that opened the doors to it, but I also think it was inevitable. I do think there is some sort of genetic thing, and if we think back before the drugs and alcohol, I did have an addictive personality. Always.
Mm.
I never wanted to. I never wanted the birthday parties to be done. I never wanted the friend hangouts to be over. You give me a big box of goldfish, I'm eating it to the last goldfish. You give me a
Mm.
Coca-Cola, you give me a 12 pack, I'll drink every single one of them. So the addictive behavior was always there. So I think it was inevitable. Do I think it could have been prolonged? Maybe. Yeah, I'm sure. It could have been until I was 18 or 21 when I found like the stuff, but because of the influence that I had with them and me being the youngest and seeing it at the time I did and being open to it at the time I did, yeah, I'm sure it played a part. Absolutely.
Um, yeah, I think on the flip side, for me, I think my role definitely falls into that caretaker role. I think for me, um, geez, I think from a young age, I was meant to just figure everything out all the time. I was kind of forced into a situation where things were my responsibility that probably shouldn't have been my responsibility. It's something that I've worked through in therapy. That, when you put kids in a situation to make adult decisions, but I never had the resources, the finances, or the authority to be making the decisions that I was kind of put in a place to make. So
Sure.
for me, I think a lot of it, like I think back on certain memories, and even though there were certain things for me to kind of do, um, I didn't, I did what I feel like I always needed to do, but taking care of everybody else for as long as I can remember. And then I think that fucked with me growing up because then I became a nurse and now I have this like complex in my brain where I'm like, did I ever really want to be a nurse or was it always like, oh, you just take care of people and that's just what you do, you know? So
Yeah.
I think about that all the time.
Damn. I never thought about that. I don't know if you and me have ever talked about that before tonight. That is such a valid question to really think on. I it's weird though because like that's all I've ever known you as, you know?
Mm.
As not just like the caretaker, but like in a professional standpoint, like for as long as I can remember, that's kind of the direction you wanted to go into. Maybe not nursing. I know you've talked about surgery and being a doctor, and I know that you've talked about the maternity ward, getting into that, whether it be as an RN or OBGYN or that's all a foreign language to me. But I just mean like like I've always heard you say like it's gonna be in medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to think about now because like I'm already in it and I'm so far in it, like and I'm going back to school now and um but yeah, I guess it's one of those things sometimes that come up when I'm talking to my therapist, you know, when I have these crises of my brain breaks down because I'm like, well, is this really who I am? I don't know. Yeah,
You've had four midlife crises by the age of 35.
yeah. Sometimes that's what it feels like. I don't know. So for me, I mean, you know, caretaker. And a lot of times, people just in general they say oldest daughter. I'm the only daughter. Um, you know, middle child syndrome. You know, just wondering. But like, I guess I don't know. People talk about middle. I don't feel necessarily like I was, you know, the middle child. The only reason I feel that way is just because I feel like I was always expected to act like an adult when both you and our older brother were kind of just allowed to fuck off. You know, grades didn't matter for you guys, but it always mattered for me. And I've talked to our dad about that even now. Like, how come they were allowed to get C's and D's, but if I ever got anything lower than a B, it was unacceptable. And my dad's like, we just expected more of you. He said that to me within like the past probably 2 years. I was like, how could you say that? He's like, we just did. That's bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think that's one of those things though too where I feel as if you started going down the path that me and our brother went down and fucking off more or less, the expectation would have dropped. Um, Not to say that's good or bad. I'm just saying I think, and I can't say how you feel, but I would imagine it probably feels that way because that's your expectations of yourself were high, which in turn put their expectations of you being high. And in my opinion, and just how I feel, like I'm almost jealous of that because I never had that. I didn't. I mean, I cared up until I didn't care. You know, grades I never truly cared about. Like it was cool to get a pat on the back, but like cared about athletics and sports and work and those things. I was always held to the higher standard. When it came to schoolwork, I was not.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder a little bit too. I think about roles because you said that about I expected more of myself, and I kind of integrate that with this idea. For a long time, I was the golden child. I was the one that, you know, was bragged upon and, you know, look what she's doing and graduating early and, you know, doing post-secondary and she works a job and, you know, like blah, 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 blah. And then I think about that and then I think about where I'm at now and how I've been labeled for a while the black sheep, the problem child now. Like, so the role for me has felt like it has shifted because I've been so used to being that super, you know, admired child. And now, because I'm not falling into that stat and I'm like speaking out against like things not being normal or okay, there are certain people in our family that do not like that. This is always how it's been. we
Sure.
just deal with it. We just keep our head down. It's going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And therefore, people are like, "Well, like that," because this is what it's been for, 70 years. So,
Right.
do you feel like your role has shifted at all from when we were younger to now?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Before I get into that, though, I want to make mention that. Um, dang, my train of thought. Hold on. I had it so perfect because you. Oh, I was going to say mentors and leaders, right? There's mentors and leaders that want their successor to be better than them, right? Like, as a mother, I would imagine that you want your children to do better than you in life, correct?
Absolutely.
And I'm not speaking for said people in our family, but I think you and I both can tell the difference of the ones that who are supportive, and this goes to extended family as well, and even friends. We can categorize this with. I have friends that I've looked up to that as soon as I started doing good and almost better than them, not like I'm doing better than them, but and not in like an egotistical, cocky way, but like my life has consistently gotten better over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. And there's friends that ask me questions and want to be a part of that I've looked up to, and then there's other friends that have cut me out. There's family that have kind of done the same thing. So I would say that I'm in the same boat as you, but I also think that's going to be part of life. I think on the first week's episode you even said the internet is scary, and it's scary because people are mean, and usually the meanest people that are going to be in our comment sections are probably the ones that need to listen to us the most. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, that all starts with self-reflection. A lot of people, I don't want to say are incapable, but, we have a lot of ego in this world, and humbling yourself and bringing you back down. We talked about it last week about us even considering doing a podcast simply because we're like, our voices need to be heard. You know what I mean?
Right.
But ultimately, we have to get back to this point of like intention. I feel like a lot of people have gone through or struggle with things that we've gone through, and it's nice to know that you're not alone and that there is the
Absolutely.
other side to it. And yeah, I'm trying to think of this song quote, and I can't remember if it's by Cardi B or if it's by Megan Thee Stallion, but they talk about basically bitches be hating when you're better. I'm pretty sure it's Megan Thee Stallion. I'll find it though.
Pretty much
Once I
every
sing it.
rap song ever.
Yeah. It must just be fresh in my mind. I had my playlist, my workout music going.
Heck
Good
yeah.
old Megan showing up for me.
Back to your question before I wanted to
Tangent.
Yeah. You said, has my role changed since I was a kid, or is that more or less, or do I feel as if it's changed since I was a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think your role was then compared to now? And when was that shift?
I was definitely babied. I was the baby of the family. That was my role. I just was, and but I also think I was the peacekeeper. And I think up until the last, I don't know, 2 years, I mean, I've made a lot of changes when it comes to like how I involve myself with our family dynamic just in the last 2 years or so. So I think that peacekeeper role, not to say that it's not true, because like I still feel like I just let people be people. I think if somebody shows you themselves enough times, like you're bound to, like, you need to listen to it, right? And I'm guilty of not doing that. I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, But then I remembered that the best thing that happened to me was people cutting me off, telling me I need to make a change or else, like giving me an ultimatum. And I don't think it has to always be that way, but I think for me, the best way that I could be a peacekeeper is by letting somebody find their own peace. I have, you know, people told me for 10 years to straighten up, and I didn't listen for 10 years, whatever, however long. It wasn't until I was put into a position where I had to do that, to find my own peace, to find my own way, where I got better, and then I was able to mend relationships. So, as much as I would love to be the peacekeeper and be like Buddha and say some awesome shit and be like, namaste, and then people would just be like high fiving and loving each
Wait, is
other.
that a Buddha thing?
I mean, apparently not if you're questioning me.
No. I mean, I listen to a lot of yoga and they end on namaste, but I didn't know if that was a Buddha
Yeah.
thing.
No, I don't know.
I'm
I
writing
just,
that down in my notes. Megan the Stallion and Buddha.
yeah. Bitches be hating. Namaste.
I'm trying to play the song in my head and I can't find the lyrics, dude. It's driving me nuts. Sorry. No
No,
longer a
no.
peacekeeper. Like the Hunger Games.
And I also think too, like even like the baby role has changed for me. I think that I have grown so much in the course of the last few years that um, I try really hard to lead by example, and that's not a baby role. That is a leader type role. That is uh, uh, an adult 32 developed brain, kind
Hmm.
of role. And I try really hard to take that on, and I'm not always the best at it, and I make so many dumb mistakes and everything, but today I try to learn from them as opposed to defend them. And I think that is a much better role than being babied and having you or mom or dad or our brother or my wife, defend it. And instead, I try to learn from them. And I think both of those in the role world have definitely changed 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, you've really grown into it. I think, but to summarize the rest of the family that's not present here, I definitely look at our older brother as the rule breaker. I feel like you could probably agree with me on that. He was there to set the tone, but he always became the wild card. He liked to push the limits. He liked to do what he wanted to do, and you know, and I mean that comes out in great ways, but it also comes out in not great ways.
Right.
Um, so
I have him
yeah,
as
and I
the rebellious one, but I also put the pioneer.
yeah. I mean, that's a lot of weight to carry on your shoulder with a family dynamic to have an expectation of you to do all of the stuff. And I
Right.
think that that plays a big role in my relationship. On the flip side, I think that we've always, unfortunately, kind of been pitted against each other because we're so close in age. And I didn't learn until I was almost 30 that, like, there's no competition to be had because I'm not like, you're living a life and I'm living a life and we're not, you know what I mean? There, we're just trying to make it no matter what. All of our lives are probably pretty difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're supposed to be rooting each other on, not competing, especially with the ones closest to us, the ones we love the most. So yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, I think dad on the other side, in my eyes, he was kind of like the fallen hero, you know? He growing up was very present, super active in our lives up until teenage years, um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
when he had his own demons that he had to fight that kind of showed up. Um, but I mean, he was present for a long time, but he couldn't sustain that uh, while he was, you know, fighting his own stuff. And so, yeah, and thankfully, he's gotten a lot of stuff figured out. He is super involved in both of our lives, and for the most part, clear-minded. He still has his days, but I mean, he's great. He's a great dad. He's great grandpa. I'm super thankful to have him to call all the time.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. He's the reincarnated fallen hero now, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He came full circle. He was like, do 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 do, dropped off, but he's back on.
yeah. Roller coaster
Yeah,
reminds me of some mental illness. I forget what it's called.
bipolar.
Yeah. That was a joke. So,
Oh,
yeah, definitely bipolar.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I just
And
picked it
then,
up.
in my opinion, what would you label mom?
Protector. Protector slash fighter. And I mean that in the most sincere, best possible way. I just think sometimes there's a different fight to be had and a different protection needed than the one that she knew and knows.
Yeah, I think she held on to try and fix everything, and when things weren't able to be fixed, I think that was kind of her demise, you know, trying
Yeah.
to keep everything together. Yeah, I agree. I think that,
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard when you know, still to this day, if like, if I called her and I was like, look, dude, like, I need your help with this. I know for certain that she would do whatever it takes. I just know that this is tough to say on like a podcast, but I just know that comes with a cost now. Whereas before, the cost was just like normal. Like that's something that you had to pay for that protection, or for her to be on your side in a fight. And today, like I've learned, well, first off, I've grown to where I don't need her to get me out of jail. I don't need her to send me $20 for, because I'm whatever, sick or because I'm stupid. You know what I mean? Like, so I've gotten to a point where that price isn't worth paying. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about her. But I do know for certain, like, push comes to shove, call her, say, hey, I need your help, she'd be there.
yeah. Well, yeah, I want to say I'll recap. I feel like our family rules are don't upset anybody, don't need anything, and don't ask any questions. So,
God, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, those are pretty much it.
yeah, I think we hit the nail on the head covering all of that with our written rules and with all of our roles. For me, um yeah, I guess when I think about being the golden child, and I guess I maybe got straight A's because I thought love from our parents would be performance based. Turns
Mm,
out it's not.
that's good.
But
That's good. Well, you
yeah,
should have tried harder. That's probably what you should have done.
yeah, I hear that a lot. I do.
Yeah, you should have graduated, 5 years early instead of two or whatever you did.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Well, I
everything
don't
would have
know,
been so
brother.
different.
I think we've covered the rules and the roles. Um, you want to end on some positivity? What are you thinking?
Yeah, um, yeah, absolutely. I think something good to kind of end on is how did we utilize like today, like going through the work that we've both put in over the course of X amount of years in time. How have we been able to make these crazy dynamics and roles strengths of ours? How would you say being the golden child is a positive today for you? Like what could you take from having that role as a child and maybe not it mentally fucking you up, but like good parts about it, and you know, how does it benefit you today, having that kind of rule?
I think it's taught me to persevere.
Mm.
You know, I think everybody falls in line with where we are our own worst critics. Um, but I also think that for me, I think that it motivates me and it pushes me. I've had to find balance. That's been a lot of, my therapy over the past couple years is trying to find balance and in that aspect that not everything has to be, you know, perfect all the time. That, there is leeway and there is give. But yeah, I think that that would be it for me. So what do you take away from your roles?
Well, I still try to maintain being comical when I can. I think laughter is the best possible thing. You know, I like. Uh, my wife calls it stimming. She's like, "Why are you stimming this morning?" I'll just walk out. We wake up early. I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. I'll come out and just start doing some weird dance. I call my dogs different names every time I talk to them, and but just to hear my wife laugh because I'm such a child, uh,
Mm.
that's the best. You know, when you said that about me being the comic relief as kids and that kind of being my role, I still try to take that on, and I would say that's a strength. I try to lighten the mood in a lot of times where the tension is high or could be high, and um, it's a it's a tough burden to carry, making people laugh. You know.
Yeah, man. Shoot, look at all the comedians that's what they do and then, they
Yeah.
sorry, that was really dark.
Yeah. I don't really
Rest in
know.
peace, Robin Williams.
Yeah. Okay, there is one. I was trying to think of any. I was like, some have died from like drug overdoses, but from their own hand.
Well, I mean, you also kind of want to be, I don't know. Anyways, next week, when we get back on class for week 3, I think let's go ahead and go for pregnancy, parenthood, and reparenting yourself.
Mm.
So Luke, as he mentions, expecting his first daughter the upcoming weeks. So we are gonna get in the thick of it. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that and how becoming parents changes our view of childhood and reparenting ourselves through this new lens that we have been incredibly blessed with to be parents. um, Parenting is hard, but it shifts everything for you.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I'm excited, especially not being a parent just yet. I'm excited. This is more or less going to be a how-to guide by yours truly, Sarah. Yeah.
uh let's rub out here, man. I'm from
Come on,
he's
man.
from Georgia. Now I'm from Jamaica. Oh my God. Listen.
Actually, next week I want you to speak Jamaican the whole time. That's
I
how
can't.
you just did?
That's the only thing that I could even here. Let's go ahead. Let's end our podcast on some kind of accent. Go ahead. Close this out.
Top of the morning. Good
Would you
day,
like
sir.
a crumpet with your tea?
Dude, you're good at shit. I'm not good at that.
I said mon and crumpet. And I don't even know what accent that is. It's something in English, and I have a feeling once we post this podcast, somebody's going to be commenting or writing an email and telling us how inappropriate we are.
Well, this podcast isn't for them then.
If your therapist had something to tell you for the week, what are they going to tell you?
Something for the upcoming week?
Yeah,
Or as a reflection on this past week?
either
Or-
one.
Okay. As a reflection, then because I guess this could be kind of both. Something I need to work on in this upcoming week based on a reflection. Everything always gets done, and it will typically go smoother if I don't sit here and stress about everything needing to get done.
Yep. I love that. I get so stressed about things. And then I gotta tell myself, it'll all get done.
Oh yeah.
I think my therapist would say, ooh, if your peace happens only when everything is going right, that is not peace, that is control. Yeah, I knew I was coming in with a heavy hitter. That's why I let you go first, because I was gonna.
Give me some heebie-jeebies up in this bitch. That was fire.
Thank you.
We should record this.
I read it in a book.
No, that's good. I like it.
Good. All right. Well, next week, reparenting ourselves, parenthood. Luke's gonna be a dad. Our little baby girl's gonna be here soon, and yeah. In the meantime, follow us on the socials. Emotional Support Siblings. We are on TikTok and Instagram, and email us, emotional support sibs. Tell us a story, then we can talk about you and how you probably are less fucked up than we are,
or more fucked up. And if you are, I'm gonna let you know. I learned that from my family.
Yeah, we're not actually therapists, but we could judge you.
Yeah, but
we don't
okay.
judge you. We're not judging anybody. Please, don't judge us.
Judge me.
All right.
All right. Well, we will see you next week. We're going to talk about like babies and shit. So thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Sarah.
Luke. Out.
Out.